gentlemen, live from the Omni Building in Euclid, Ohio, it's the Cleveland Sports 360 Show with your hosts, LG. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, your host, LG.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Cleveland Sports 360 Show. Tonight we have a power-packed show with special guests coming in all the way from the land down under in Australia, believe it or not. It seems like Mitchell Martaza and his Lingerie Football League are pulling their same shenanigans again. This time he is taking his sex-filled smut to the land down under. Not only is he threatening to take his teams to Australia, which really aren't the good players that he took to Australia anyways, he's threatening to sue the LFL Australia. LFL Australia is a women's league dedicated to Ladies Football Australia, and Mitch Martaza wants to sue this league because he thinks they're stealing his idea. Well, down under, they play rugby, folks. Gridiron is what they refer to football as. And Mitchell Martaza definitely is one of the people that we question what his motives are to take the Lingerie Football League out of America, where obviously he's failing miserably. You probably just noticed he closed down the Orlando team last week or a month ago, let's say at the most, and he's saying he's just temporarily suspended it. Well, what happened was you had a group of ladies that stood up and questioned Martaza's ability to fix football games. And when he makes teams win, because he owns all 12 teams. On the phone, joining us live from Australia, we have Melinda Lizowiski, Talia Schultz. Talia Schultz, who is the owner of LFL Australia, which stands for Ladies Football League. And makes no mistake about it, she does not have any ties to Mitchell Martaza's Lingerie Football League in America. The LFL Australia is a completely separate entity. It's a non-profit organization that is registered with the government in Australia, and she did everything she needed to do correctly. And also, we should be joined by Deborah Pools, former Chicago Bliss player. Deborah, are you on the phone by any chance?
I am on the phone.
How about that? Deborah Pools, former Defensive Player of the Year in 2010 for Mitchell Martaza's LFL Football League. And Melinda is with a women's group in the land down under. And let's start with Talia Schultz. Talia, tell us a little bit about what happened with your first run-in with Mitchell Martaza. What did you receive?
Received a cease and desist letter last Saturday, just outlining for us to basically stop the league that we had formed with regards to teaching ladies about gridiron. And so we have 4 teams that are set up in Queensland, and we're building towards 4 teams across Australia in every major city. So we've been requested by the lawyers of Mitchell Martaza to cease operating altogether.
Now, Talia, the truth of the matter is this didn't even come in the mail to you. It was an email you received from this LFL attorney. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
So these guys don't even have enough class to send something in the mail. They try to send it out via email. I myself and Kenyon Johnson here in America received some cease and desist orders from this LFL henchman, as I call him.
Yeah, and I called him back the next day.
Right. You know, we asked him to come on the show. Hey, Deborah Pools, tell us a little bit about what was one of the reasons you left the Lingerie Football League in America?
Well, I left after the 2010-2011 season. We had a playoff game that was one of the highest rated shows on MTV, and MTV awarded the Lingerie Football League a full hour contract, so they were doubling the airtime that we had on MTV. Shortly thereafter, we received a letter from Mitch Martaza stating that he was no longer paying the players. He was getting rid of the compensation package completely because he wanted girls only that were in it for the love of the game, not that were in it for the money. And for many players, I mean, there's no player in this league, and I spoke to Mitch personally. He called me and offered me the marketing position for the Chicago Bliss team, and I told him personally that there was no one in this league that was in it for the money because he doesn't pay anyone in this league enough to say that they're in it for the money. So it was more the principle to matter. I play in a football league April through November, so I get my football fix. I really liked to play in the league with my coaches. I just did not like the way the team is managed. And as far as the letter or the email, I mean, Mitch's attorney, I don't even know who this guy is, but he sends emails, sending emails out all the time. They have no legal validity. So until he files something in Australia, because that's where he'd have to file it, there's nothing he can do about your league. Your league is established. You know, if there was an issue, he could have gone, you know, when you initially got the LFL in Australia established. But if they've offered you that trademark and that nonprofit organization, they have no legal basis for that.
Yeah, that's just one of Mitch Martaza's habits of how he does business.
Tactics.
Yeah, but you went to your lawyer, right, Talia?
I did.
And explain to us a bit about what your lawyer thought of Mitch Martaza in his lingerie football league letter.
Well, quite simply, he just said, look, his allegations, both in the media and also in the cease and desist letter, holds no merit. So, yeah, look, I see it as a total waste of time. I don't like having to pursue the courts unnecessarily. I've posed a challenge to let's take it on the field. Us girls are so serious about gridiron, we get so hungry for training time and game time that this sort of talk and banter is quite irritating. So we want, like I said, the lawyer is quite clear that it holds no merit and he's going to respond accordingly.
Now, one thing I gotta say is that the lingerie football league, in my opinion, in America, is no longer a football league. I hate to say it. Some of the ladies really joined the league. This league has turned so sexist, Deborah Poles, that one of the highlights that was shown in Australia, I mean, instead of let's show the touchdown on the big screen, let's show maybe a pass interception, a quarterback sack. When one of the girls lost her panties in Australia, that's what they showed over and over and over again on the large screen in the arena that this was playing in. Now, Melinda, you happen to have a sort of an article that summed it all up best. Can you fill us in a little bit about what you guys are working on and how you're trying to curtail what this Mitch Martaza is trying to bring to Australia, please?
Sure. Well, we first heard about the Lingerie Football League when a number of our supporters started contacting us to let us know that it was coming to Australia. I personally hadn't heard of it before. I think I'd heard of the word lingerie bowl, but that was about it. But then we heard it was coming to Australia. We have a grassroots action group of about over 6,000 on Facebook, a couple of thousand on Twitter, and then there's a few more thousand on an email list as well. And we challenge things in pop culture that sexualise children or objectify women. So this fit into our campaigning interests. So we had a look at it, and from our perspective as an organisation, we thought that the event, although it claims to be about sport, was clearly more about women in lingerie and exposing as much of women's bodies as you can under the guise of sport. That's not to say that the women playing it aren't amazing athletes. Certainly they are, but we just felt that that's clearly not why men are going to the game. So what we've done since then is we've started a petition and had people signing it, calling on sponsors and advertisers to pull out of supporting the event. And as time rolled on, we started to notice that it wasn't just the sort of, the clothing or the objectification that we're looking at, there was something deeper happening with the way the players are treated. And that was largely because of some of the articles I'd seen on the Cleveland 360 site about how girls were not being compensated for medical, really serious medical expenses resulting from injuries. One of the most astounding things that he was not paying the players. I could not believe that.
He was not only not paying the players, he was charging them to play.
That is unreal. That is so unbelievable.
You have an MTV contract and you're charging the players to play and charging them for their insurance premium, and then not paying for when they get injured.
Now that's Deborah Pools, former Defensive Player of the Year for the Lingerie Football League. Who knows? She was involved in this league. Now Deborah Pools is a very intelligent, highly educated woman that has a big-time career in marketing, and she knows what's going on and how to get things done. And as you heard, Martaza even tried to re-recruit Deborah Pools after the fact when she left to come back and market the team for him. Deborah, just give us a little insight, because the girls in Australia aren't familiar with what is about to take place. They only saw what he called his all-fantasy tour. He didn't bring any of the great football players to Australia. He brought what he considers the good-looking bunch, his favorites like Liz Gorman, who I don't know what the story is between Liz and Mitch, but she seems to be his right-hand person traveling on these trips and everything else. But tell us a little bit.
I'm not going to speculate on their relationship, but all I can say as far as the treatment of the players is that I understand the concept of having us in the uniforms that they have us in. It's the same thing with beach volleyball. There's no reason these girls have to wear small bikinis as they do on a beach volleyball court. The uniforms bring people out, and then the game is what keeps them there. So that, as far as the uniforms go, like I always say, my roommate from college runs for the U.S. track and field team, and her uniform was half the size of my uniform, and she's long jumping. So as far as the uniforms go and what we're playing in, I don't feel that that's objectifying women any more than any other women's sport where you're wearing a small uniform. What I do have a problem with is the marketing of the league and how it is very sexist, and it's very trying to pull on the male aspect to come in and see it. And instead of, like you said, showing plays where the girls are actively, involved in a good football play or a touchdown or an interception or something like that, they're choosing to use these ridiculously sexualized clips because that's what sells. It has nothing to do with the game that we're playing.
Deborah,
I always said I don't know necessarily how the porn industry is run, but I would feel that Mitch would run it exactly the same. It's run exactly the same way. He threatens the girls. He keeps all the girls very separate. We try to talk and keep in touch with each other, and the girls would be afraid to talk to us because they would be kicked off.
Now, Deborah, he was having people pass around a blow-up doll in the audience in Sydney, and we're going to get right back into that in about 30 seconds when we come back with more of the Cleveland Sports 360 show. We're talking Ladies Football League all the way from the lane down under, and how Mitch Martaza is threatening to sue people in a foreign country. We'll be right back in 30 seconds with more of the Cleveland Sports 360 show right here on StreamingSportsTalk.com. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cleveland Sports 360 show, where we're joined from the land down under, all the way from Australia. Kill that music, Kenyon. It's terrible, man. Terrible music. I don't know who would play music that bad. Oh, that's my band.
That's your band.
I know.
You rocked it on the drums there, brother.
Right. Now, Melinda, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay, Melinda, now, you guys were so involved with this, you sent in a spy to see just what kind of tactics Mitch Martaza uses when he's auditioning or looking for women to come and play inside of this lingerie football league. Is that correct?
Yes, we did. We sent Talitha, who I believe is on the line as well. I don't know if but yes, she's here as well.
Yes.
She went to the Sydney tryouts on Thursday night.
Okay, so they had tryouts. Go ahead, Melinda.
Oh, sorry. They had tryouts on Thursday night before the Saturday night event in Sydney, and I didn't even know there were tryouts until I heard that they'd taken place in Brisbane. So we thought, well, let's see if someone would like to go along and check this out, and Talitha jumped at the chance, and she was fantastic. So she went there, she filled out the forms. One very interesting form was the talent release and waiver of compensation form.
Yeah, let me jump into that talent release form real quick here while we have Deborah Pools on the phone. I believe that she's going to notice there's a couple changes. Okay, the Lingerie Football League, to the best of my knowledge, in this country has always tried to strive the fact that they're looking for players, not just on beauty, but purely on their football playing ability. We all know that Mitch Martaza is a crock of shit when it comes to that, folks. But now he's given these releases that he makes the players sign. It says, I, the player, agree to appear for an agility test in the Lingerie Football League. We're just going to rush through this. I furthermore agree to grant all rights and throughout in all works done. I also give the rights for them to use my name, photographs, any visual likeness for the purposes of now or in the future, or reproduce. But I don't want to get into this whole 3-page agreement. What I want to tell you people out there is Martaza is deeming this as an entertainment league only now. He's not even deeming it as football. He depicts it as an entertainment league that depicts football. Can you believe that, Deborah Pools? No longer is this a football league. It's an entertainment league. Have you ever heard that before?
I mean, that's always the way he based it. And, I had been benched at one game for lack of celebration after I had a touchdown or I tackled someone. And he encouraged the fighting and the spectacle of it. Now, I understand the entertainment factor just for TV, that you have to have some sort of entertainment factor. But as far as I was concerned, I was playing every down of every game on offense and defense. So I don't have the energy, nor do I have the time to sit there and fight with someone and get in someone's face. I occasionally would jump in the stands after a touchdown, but I'm not the huge celebrator in your face. I'd rather, knock your helmet off in the next play.
Right.
And so, I was benched consistently, or attempted to be benched because of that lack of celebration for the entertainment factor. So football is secondary to anything else. He's more concerned about the overall look. That's one of the reasons why he has one-size uniform for the whole league, and you either fit it or you don't. And then football is second to that. The problem is that you have to understand that women have not grown up playing football. So now I've been in some sort of organized football for the last 12 or 14 years, but I'm a rarity, and there were a few of us on the team like that, but you're looking at a group of girls who do not play tackle football, and this was actually the first tackle football experience I've ever had. So proper technique needs to be taught when you're doing, when you're going to tackle someone. And I keep saying it that because he puts the football technique as a secondary to the showmanship of it, one of these days, now there's been girls that have hurt, blown out their knees, had broken bones, but there's going to be someone one of these days that goes headfirst into a tackle and does not get up because proper technique and proper equipment is just not there. Because as far as football goes, it's secondary to the talent.
Yeah, let me run this by you now, Deborah. He's got a clause in these little agreements he makes people sign that says they're going to be responsible, the person, not the league, for any kind of medical bills. The league is no longer responsible for any kind of medical bills due to any kind of injuries that these players may suffer. So you get assigned a form of all liabilities, claims, demands, actions, whatever. You have to release the Lingerie Football League, including death, okay? The Lingerie Football League is no longer going to be held responsible for any type of injuries that these ladies sustain. Now, Melinda, you have your spy with you that went into the tryout. Now, this is internet radio. I want to remind you, ladies, that we're not governed by the FCC, so you can tell us exactly how this went down, and if you don't mind, you can use the language whatever Mr. Martaza decided to tell these ladies. Can we hear Melinda from your spy and have her announce her name and what happened when she went there, please?
Yeah, sure.
Talitha, are you there?
Yeah. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, so my name's Talitha, and I went to the tryout on Thursday night. I wasn't really surprised when I got there and saw that most of the girls were, had their hair out, makeup all done up, wearing fake tan. Because it was interesting, when they sent you the email about what to wear for the tryouts, they told you to wear exercise gear, but then in brackets told you that it had to be shorts and a sports bra. And I found that interesting that they were telling us what we had to wear for the tryout. So I didn't wear that because I didn't want to wear little shorts that exposed myself. So I went in my long pants, which I'm really glad for because we were playing on the fake grass that just rips you up anyway, and I've still got burns all over my hands and my elbows. But when we got in there, I'd never seen Mitch Mortaza before. I didn't know who he was, and when I first heard him speaking, I was like, I'm not sure if this is the same guy that everyone's been talking about. But then as the night went on, I saw a different side of him start to come out, a more aggressive, a more pushy kind of person. And then the language started happening and he was really ripping into us. And we were shown the drill once and then expected to be able to do it to perfection like the other LFL players. And most of us have never played gridiron before. And so they were telling us that it's okay, it's not about your skill, it's about the two things we can't teach you, which is speed and heart. So, because I grew up a sprinter, so I'm like, okay, great, speed's something I've got. So I went into a drill with all of my speed, and then Liz Gorman was like, yeah, that's what we want, this is what we want to see. But then, you still ended up getting grilled because you dropped the ball, because you're running so fast to complete the drill. And then Mitch comes over and he's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? If you're here fucking sightseeing, then get the fuck out. Just yelling at us for not being able to do a drill that he could barely even teach us himself because he showed lack of skill in football. He embarrassed himself in a drill, and one of the other LFL players had no idea what he was trying to do, and so it looked like she didn't know what she was doing either, and they both kind of stood there trying to get this drill done, and then we're all just so confused that we walked away having no idea what the drill was, what we're meant to do.
Now, Talitha, my question to you is, what was the mood of the other women when Martaza started the guy's really bitching at them, I would say. What was the mood of the other women that were there? I mean, how did they handle this? What did they think of this guy?
Everyone kind of all looked at each other a bit shocked of why he was screaming at us and swearing at us. But then the other LFL players were really getting alongside him. They were all calling us pussies, saying that we're not good enough, and
because one team kind of was dominating one of the girl-on-girl drills. So they were all screaming at us, being like, "You're all pussies, like, how pathetic, look at you." And then he started really getting into us, saying, like, "I don't want you just to wrestle her, I want you to pancake the shit out of her." The other LFL players were saying, like, "Put her in the parking lot." And that's when it was getting, like, really intense. And I wasn't comfortable. I'm like, I don't even want to be here anymore. Like, at first I really enjoyed it, and I love pushing my body, and I love, like, being involved in sports. But then when it started to get so aggressive that we were trying to hurt the other girl, that's when I was like, oh, I felt bad. But I had to, because if I didn't, I would have been smashed on the ground, and I didn't want to get hurt. So I had to hurt the other girl. And so one of the guys came over who was like the paramedic kind of person, and he was like making sure she was okay, because her face, like, I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just trying to get the drill done, but I hurt her in the process, and I had no idea I did until afterwards, and I felt so bad. But everyone else was so fired up and, like, cheering you on if you hurt her.
Well, that's the way he encourages people to try to hurt other people. Let me ask you a question,
though. This is the problem with the league. So I will say the coaches that we had, our head coach, the year that I had Defensive Player of the Year was Matt Sinclair, and it was two other coaches. Actually, we had four coaches, and they were straight out of the NFL, and they ran our practices directly like the NFL practices are run. And the main thing that we worked on was technique. And you have to understand that in tackle football, you have to run through someone. So you can't think like, I'm going to hurt this person, or I'm going to, hesitate to tackle this person, because if you do, you're going to get injured. The only way you go without getting hurt is to run full speed at the proper technique. So before anything even went into happening as far as practice and plays and drills, our drills were based around proper technique so there was no injury. And in the beginning, there were some injuries. I hit a girl and she fell the wrong way and broke a wrist.
Yeah, but Deborah, let me cut you off there for a second. How do you go into a place to have an audition or a tryout and encourage this type of violence with people that maybe didn't have any, this guy is a psycho, man. He's a nut.
This is not track and field. We're not out here running 100-meter sprints. Like, this is a full contact sport, and you can't go in with a bunch of girls who have never played that sport and expect them to perform at 100% and no one get injured. It's like telling girls to go out on some hockey skates and start fighting on the ice and just go for it full blast. You can't do it. It's just not possible, and that's why injuries occur. And the reason is because all the technique and the sport is secondary to all this bullshit that it does is encouraging fighting. That fight they had in Tampa or Miami or whatever it was.
Right.
Like, sportsmanship in this league does not exist.
Right. Well, I tell you what, when we come back, we're going to take another quick 30-second break. When we come back, let's talk to Talia a little bit and find out. I think she attended one of the games. I could be wrong about that. But when we come back with more of the Cleveland Sports 360 show, on the phone joining us live, Deborah Pools from Chicago, former LFL Defensive Player of the Year 2010. Three women from the land down under: Talia Schultz, Melinda, I'm going to blow his last name, Liz Whiskey, and Talitha Stone. We'll be back with more of the Cleveland Sports 360 show, talking Ladies Football League and lingerie football from the land down under.
the sky is blue, the sun is shining down on you. Heaven knows where we've been, but we can fly and we'll live forever, and all I see is blue.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cleveland Sports 360 show. Tonight's topic is lingerie football and ladies football league, all the way from the land down under Australia, where Mitch Martaza is trying to invade a foreign country. And one of the reasons I think Martaza wants to take the league out of America is, simply put, they have socialized medicine in Canada, they have socialized medicine in Australia. What better place to take a league where women are constantly getting hurt and threatening the league with lawsuits than a place where they can get medical for free, even if you have to wait 2 years. Now, one thing I just want to say to the people that are joining us now, we heard from the spy that the people sent into the tryouts in Sydney, Australia, Thursday night. And Martaza used a little bit of language that probably is less than acceptable for ladies that he has never even seen in his life before. And part of the problem is that this guy, Mitch Martaza, thinks he's in the NFL. The National Football League may have some coaches that do talk to players in that sort of language. The problem is the lingerie football is not the NFL. He's constantly comparing LFL to NFL. The joke with that is, just as I said, a joke. He couldn't hold the NFL's jockstrap, pardon the pun. Now, back to Talia. Talia, were you at one of these LFL games that took place in Australia?
Not the game. I attended the Brisbane tryouts.
Okay, and you also had some girls that you were involved with training in your football, the Ladies Football League Australia, correct?
Correct. So there were 20 girls that were selected, and of the 20, 15 have come through our league, the Ladies Football League. So that's why they were quite prepared and familiar with a lot of the drills.
Now, give us a little background on your Ladies Football League in Australia real quick for our viewers out there. Tell us what you're working towards.
Look, we love the game of gridiron. We're an Aussie league for Aussie women, run by Aussie women, with some great men beside us supporting us. Quite simply, our first goal is to promote gridiron. We also are very keen to I guess, promote a get-off-the-sofa fitness approach. We live in the best country in the world. We have great climate. We've got great facilities here. We've got a beautiful country, so there's no reason why people can't be active. But what we do not tolerate is the misrepresentation of women. I'm not anti-lingerie league. You've got great, smart, intelligent, athletic women like Deborah Poles and the Tank and also Lindsay that you've interviewed. All of these ladies are smart and intelligent ladies, but it all comes down to choice. And that's what our league is about, is promoting women in sport who aim to be fit, funky, they're fabulous. In my case, I'm 40 plus, but what we want to do is promote women and empower women to play sport and balance life in the best way possible, using sport as a tool. And gridiron is a great game. It's not for dummies, it's not for the light-hearted. So you need to have game face on, and you can't go in for half a tackle. You need to go full on, and like Deborah, you said, it's all about the technique. You can't go half-hearted, otherwise you will get hurt and the other person will get hurt. It's not rocket science, it's football, it's gridiron. So that's probably all I need to say, LG.
Well, let me just refresh the fact that the people in America don't have a clue who you are, but tell us, you're married to a former NFL football player that is from America, right?
Well, yeah, my husband's from San Francisco. He tried out for the San Francisco 49ers. He made the cut, but he blew his knee out, I think at one of the camps. So
But the fact is that the fact is that you have the knowledge how to train these ladies to properly play football. You're not just putting this thing together to go out onto the field and show nakedness. That is not your goal, is it?
No way. I'm an accredited coach. I know the game. I've been raised and exposed to the game, but I love league, I love union, I love AFL, I love soccer, and that's why us ladies here in Australia have so many different skills that we can bring to the game. Yeah, that's what we're about. We can add a bit of colour to the game of gridiron, and we liken it to human chess, and that's why I love this game, because you can't be a dummy to play this game. You really need to know your playbooks. You need to know about teamwork. You need to know about commitment and sacrifice. But as women, we want to make sure that we look after each other. When girls sign up for our Ladies Football League, LFL Australia, we welcome them to the family, because that's our approach, is we treat all the girls as family members. We invite them into the sisterhood. We promote and encourage each other. We encourage each other to be better in our positions. And we G each other up. We're not soft, and we are ladies, but when it comes to the game of gridiron, we put game face on. We might be pretty off the field, but on the field we're beasts.
Now, there's 4 of your teams there, right? 4 teams?
We've got teams across Australia.
Okay.
The exciting thing is our league is a national league, and we're also in negotiations with New Zealand, the North and the South Island. So it's going to be a trek across the Tasman, sort of a league, similar to our rugby league competition here.
Now,
we're amateurs. We're green.
Did you take the chance to offer Deborah Pools a trip to come down and help you with this football? She's very experienced. Instead of me coming down
Hey,
there, Deborah, you need to go take a
I'll sell my dog
vacation.
and my kids for you to come over.
Oh my God, I'd be there in a heartbeat. I keep my passport in the car just in case I decide to jump out of the country at all times. So you guys let me know and I'll be there.
There you have it.
I think what she was saying as far as having the team as a family, the reason that I ended up staying for the 2 years is because the team was my family. My family is not in Illinois. They're in Arizona and Philadelphia. So I would have Thanksgiving with my football team. I'd go over to my coach's house. You know, our coach had, his high school team made it to the playoffs. I sat there with his wife in 25-degree weather watching this playoff game because, just to be out there to support him. Everything about the league on our team, and it wasn't like this across the board for all teams, but our team was so close, and we loved our coaches, and our coaches were all about the players and such. This is why they're no longer coaches anymore. But you did have that family aspect with the league until, the front office and everyone got involved. I mean, I can tell you that game that Mitch threatened to bench me at halftime for lack of celebration. Matt Sinclair told Mitch, look, if you bench her, you bench the whole team and we won't come out of this locker room. And you can explain to our 6,000 fans, because the Chicago team we were averaging about 5,000 people per game. In the last game, we had 6,000 people at the game. You can explain to those people why we're not coming out to finish.
The fact of the matter, Deborah, and you could probably clarify this, anybody that ever spoke up to Mitch Martaza, they're gone, right? I mean, that's his way of dealing with anybody that has anything to say to Martaza that he doesn't care for. They're no longer in the LFL. Is that about right?
They're gone, or they're spoken to with such disdain, and it's almost hatred. It's almost like, to me, personally, Mitch does not like women. I've never been spoken to the way he has spoken to me in the past. I've never been spoken to by anyone like that. And I could go back to high school days when I got in a fight with someone. They still didn't even speak to me like that. So, I don't know what it is. I think there's a lot more deep-seated anger that Mitch has. He does a very good job of reeling you in, and then, like, Talia said, he turns on you.
Right.
And you can't, and he does a very poor job of explaining, and he does a very poor job of executing. He had a great opportunity for a great league here, and he fucked it up, and now he's going to somewhere else.
Right.
He's going to somewhere else to try and get it because he can't do it here.
Well, let me just ask Talia, you're going to stand your ground, right? Talia?
Sorry?
You're going to stand your ground. You're not going to buckle to any kind of baloney that Mitch Martaza tries to throw at you, are you?
Well, absolutely. Nothing's changed. That cease and desist letter has been dealt with. It's with my lawyers. We're not going to spend too much time on it. We're going to place the value of that letter in, the time and the value that it's worth.
Well, if you run out of toilet paper, if you run out of tissue paper, that's about all that letter's good for. His henchman sends them out like they're butter, like anybody could get it. Melinda, are you still with us?
I am, yes.
Okay, Melinda, let's get back to you for a second here. Now, I know that, and I tell you something, I want my viewers out there to know this too. There's men in Australia that are angered by what took place down under this past week. There's men out there that didn't think this kind of sexist nakedness, and I'm not talking about the uniforms, I'm talking about this guy encourages players to pant somebody while they're out on the field. He encourages it, and when you show the highlight over and over, but there was families that this Martaza was trying to sell family ticket plans to come and see these LFL games. Now, Melinda, tell us a little bit about ticket sales out there. There was several different packages. Let's just make that quick, but there was a family plan, right?
That's right. They were selling, this was another thing early on that stunned me, because I was looking at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre website where the ticket sales were, and I clicked through the options and there was adult, and then there was family pass, which included two adults and two children, or two minors they described it as, juniors, and juniors were described as being aged between 2 and 12 years. And so they were selling these juniors tickets. They were also selling concession tickets, which are the same price as juniors, so I suppose if you wanted to bring more children along, you could. That was particularly alarming to us, and given what happened at this event on Saturday night, I'm astounded that anybody would bring children to this environment. Can I tell you a bit about what happened at the event?
Absolutely. That's where we're going with this. Tell us exactly what happened at this event.
Right. Well, my colleague Deborah went to the event on Saturday night after she had gone to tryouts with Talitha. Now, Deborah, some of the things that Deborah talked about, she mentioned that when the lingerie bottoms fell down, that was the moment that was played on the big screen. That was the replay. And a man next to her said, "This is the perfect sport." Then the MC invited men to stand and be selected in the chase and tackle the girl contest. And so it says men stand and cheer, pointing at themselves while others fist pump the air. 3 are chosen. The female player is brought to the ground. That caused us to question what sort of protection do these players have against these men inappropriately trying to grab them. Because another incident that happened was a lingerie football player walking towards the VIP room. Security had to intervene because a group of men tried to grab at her. Then there was the blow-up doll passed around the crowd. Now, I don't know, you said earlier that it was Mitch Martaza providing that. I don't know if he did provide that, but it was passed around, and one man simulated oral sex on the doll while the others laughed. When that was confiscated
this was a blow-up doll, right?
Arena.
This was a blow-up sex doll?
Sex doll.
I heard that they were selling them inside the arena, if you could believe that or not.
Sorry?
I heard that they were for sale inside the arena. I mean, I don't know.
Is that right? I didn't hear that.
I don't know if that's true or false.
That would even surprise me if those were for sale. I would think that someone just kind of brought that in. I don't know that those would be for sale. That's kind of the new low. I would be very shocked if that was the case.
Well, you know, Deborah, the guy...
my mate Deborah would have told me to add it too.
Go ahead, Melinda. Sorry to interrupt you.
Was that there was no respect shown to any of the players by any of the men showing up at this game. I mean, from what my mate Deborah described to me, these guys were keen on taking sneaky photos of the women's bottoms. They were wanting to grab at the women. There was the blow-up doll. One man said, saying that you go to this game to see a good football game is like saying you go to a strip club to see a good dancer. That's the kind of environment that this was, and that's the environment that Mitch Martaza was inviting children to. And so, I mean, the crowd was mostly men. There was very few women there. So, yeah, I mean, he even over the loudspeakers at the end, Mitch Martaza said, despite the criticism, you came to suck anyway. So there's this whole arrogance about what he's doing. He just thinks that he can do whatever he likes, and that anybody who challenges him is irrelevant.
But my question to you, Melinda, is you're not the only group of people that are a little bit irritated with this in Australia, are you?
No, there's actually a group of students in Melbourne they were the first group to start a petition. A group of students, we're talking 14 and 15-year-old students in Melbourne, were so outraged that this was coming that they have been campaigning against it. They are concerned about the way the league depicts women, and particularly women in sport. And the more they've looked into it, I mean, I've had contact with them as well, the more they've looked into it, the more frustrated and angry they are about what's going on. And they're so pleased that this kind of exploitation, like what we're discussing today, is being exposed.
Now, my question is, are you guys going to give up now that Martaza's gone, or are you going to keep on the fight and try to get this guy not to come back to Australia? How's this going to work?
Well, we're going to keep on top of potential sponsors and venues to disassociate themselves from Mitchell Mortaza and the Lingerie Football League. We are going to be showing sponsors, everything that we've documented, even down to pictures that have been posted on the Lingerie Football League Facebook page with all the pornographic comments from men underneath. We're going to be showing that to sponsors and venues and saying, is this really what you endorse? Because the Brisbane Entertainment Centre promoted this as the fastest growing women's sport in the world. But no, I've not seen men publicly acknowledging that this is a sport at all. It seems like the guys that are coming into the game are under no illusions why they're there. They're there to see women in lingerie. Now, of course, that is not to say that the women aren't great athletes. Clearly they are, and we've been hearing about that. But the way this game is being promoted is not appreciating women for their athleticism and skill. It's about how they look and how many times their pants can be pulled down during a game.
Now, my question is, do you know who directly sponsored this lingerie football league to come there, Melinda? I heard it was a big concert promoter in Australia that was behind this. Are you familiar with any of that?
Ticketek.
Yeah, are you guys going to...
I know that Ticketek...
What can you do?
Directly sponsored it.
What are you going to do as far as, are you guys going to boycott concerts and things of this nature to prove your point? I mean, obviously, he came into your home country and he mocked the Australian sports minister, who, if I'm not correct on, please correct me, she's a senator in your government, Kate Lundy, correct?
That's right, yes. Correct. So she spoke out against the Lingerie Football League, saying that it didn't fit within the Australian values that we have around sport, which is, equal participation, safety, equal representation, that kind of thing. And he just went straight on the attack, called her comments irresponsible and ignorant, and then took it further by printing up T-shirts that said Team Lundy. So he's just completely mocked the sports minister. That doesn't seem to be the thing that you want to do if you're wanting to expand a team into Australia. But I don't actually see how he's going to be able to expand here, because we have guidelines surrounding sport set out by the Australian Sports Commission, and one of the things that they raise as a hindrance to women in sport is the idea of sexploitation, and they do mention things like beach volleyball having certain requirements, that your underpants have to be a certain width, even like the sides of the pants have to be less than 6 centimetres, that kind of thing. So what they're saying is that when uniforms become less about ease of movement and comfort and more about exposing bodies for...
Melinda, hold on one second.
Yep.
Hold on. Is somebody by a computer with their telephone? Move away from your computer. If anybody's by a computer listening to the show, that's not good. We're getting feedback over here. But, okay, go ahead, Melinda. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just saying that our country does have specific guidelines in place about the term sexploitation, and so the Australian Sports Commission does recognise that this is a problem, and the drive, what we're heading towards in Australia is that we want women recognised for athleticism and skill, and sexualisation of athletes, female athletes in particular, is seen as a hindrance to that. So I don't know how he's going to establish long-term in Australia, considering we do have those kind of guidelines. So yeah, that's
but you're
that's
definitely
my question. With Ticketek,
you're definitely going to stay. You're definitely going to stay on the path of trying to curtail this league from expanding to Australia. I mean, basically, you're just getting started,
Absolutely.
right? You're just.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
We want to make sure it's not financially viable for him to return.
Well, good. Stay with it because I think you're on the right track, and I hope it works out for you. We got about 2.5 more minutes here. Does Deborah Pools, is there anything you'd like to add?
I think just overall for this league, he had a great idea, and he didn't even have the idea for the league. I have to say, like, there's another women's football league out here, and they're not. You have to create your own sponsors. It's full tackle. It's out in pads on the field, and I give them a ton of credit. Me personally, I'm not going to go out there and be hit by a 250-pound person just because I have to work. And as much as I love this sport, my livelihood for my employment and all that kind of stuff is first. But so the concept of the league was great. We asked for uniforms that had long sleeves because of the severe turf burns that we were receiving. Those couldn't happen. We wanted a sports bra type uniform with longer sleeves. We had to, beg to get better pads for our knees and our elbows, and everything about the league that would better the women's performance in football was just always so secondary. And I know I keep saying that, but all of the stuff that's being said about Mitch talking about the athletic secretary or one of the senators and his response to that is just typical Mitch Mortaza to me. His family members that used to work for him quit and don't even work for him anymore. You get to a point where as much as you love the sport, it's just not worth your time. I love the coaches, I love my team, but like I said, I play in a flag football league 6 months out of the year. So there's no tackling involved. But all of this is just complete disrespect to the players. They've lost a lot of the talent because of the whole lack of paying and charging them to pay. And not like any of us really did it for the money in the first place, but it's the principle of the matter, and it's the letter that he sent to us saying that he's not going to pay us anymore, now we have to pay him to play. So, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's not about the sport. It's about, the marketing of this team. And the marketing of the team is exactly what led to the game that they had in Australia. You can't market a team and expect to have a certain respect for women if you don't respect the women in the marketing of the team.
Well, there you have it, folks. That was Deborah Pools, former Defensive Player of the Year for the Chicago Bliss in 2010. She was smart enough to walk away from Mitchell Martaza and his lingerie football league. Even though Martaza offered her marketing director of the team several times, she got out. Melinda, keep up the good work. Stay in touch. Talia.
Thank you.
Talia, do not buckle to this man's pressure. It's all a bunch of baloney. He does this. He really doesn't have a leg to stand on. He'd have to come to an Australian court to proceed with this. I'm sure that would cost a fortune, and I'm sure the Australian government's already had its fill with Mitchell Martaza's Lingerie Football League. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the three women that came from Australia to be with us on the Cleveland Sports 360 show.
Don't forget Talitha.
Yes, Talitha Stone. We're going to come back. Why don't you all say your name, starting with you, Melinda, your last name too.
Melinda Lashevsky.
There you have it. And then Talitha.
Talitha Stone.
And Talia Schultz. I can say the easy ones. But I want to thank you three women, and please stay in touch with LG and the Cleveland Sports 360 show. We'll be posting this show up online later on this evening. You'll be able to get a big copy of it and have it for yourself and play it to everybody in Australia. Let them know what's going on. I just want to remind the viewers out here, this is the Lingerie Football League, a man that closes down teams when he doesn't get his way. When the girls have the nerve to question this guy and come out, he fires the whole team. The Orlando Fantasy is no longer a team because Mitch Martaza fixed a football game last year and he wanted his Tampa Breeze to win the game. That's the way it happened. Sean Salisbury is no longer the voice of the LFL. he had enough sense to say he never saw football calls go so poorly. Next thing you know, Mr. Salisbury is no longer the voice of the LFL. This is the LFL, not the NFL. Don't let a guy like this come into your hometown. Oklahoma won't even let Martaza put an LFL team in Oklahoma in the United States. Why is that? Why would Oklahoma not let them expand? There's reasons for this, folks. This guy's an exploiter. He's like a pimp. I don't know how he does it, but these women better smarten up before one of them scrape their arm on the turf, get a staph infection. Think about it, ladies. MRSA. There's a Cleveland Brown that got a staph infection, and he couldn't even play professional football no more. That could happen to you. Don't go away, folks. Coming up next, right here at StreamingSportsTalk.com, is unsportsmanlike conduct. Kenyon Johnson, the beautiful Kenya Huff, and the not-so-good-looking Christian Patterson. We'll be back next week with more of the Cleveland Sports 360 show. God bless you, and thank you too, Deborah Pools, for joining us live right here on StreamingSportsTalk.com. Be blessed.